All right, we are in. So if you guys are new to this series, this is our second video, and basically this series is about addressing the underlying stuff that a lot of times you don't get to see when it comes to Brothers Green, what we're going through on social media, what we're going through as brothers, relationships, whatever. We're covering it all. We've been cooking for you guys, teaching you how to cook for years, but this is another side of us, and
we're exposing it all.
Yeah, we want to talk to you about a bunch
taking
of
stuff. It off. So this week, this series is basically going to be about why most YouTube channels fail. But what's cool about this is it doesn't just apply to YouTube. It really applies to anyone in social media, anyone in a creative field, because as you're going along this journey, you know, we're building a business, we're building a brand, and we're learning about what things work, what things don't work. And we've seen over the years a lot of people that have tried, maybe have gotten pretty big, and then things change up in the system and they don't know how to change with it. So all of a sudden their numbers start going down. So we want to just give you an insight into what we've seen and maybe give you some thoughts on how you can avoid this.
And this is a brand new world we're in. No one knows what's going on. Like, let's be honest, social media, all of this stuff, YouTube, there's no lesson, there's no guide to doing this industry. So we're just trying to be honest with what we've gone through, what we've seen, where people have gone wrong, where people have gone right, and our personal experience. And we have a lot of experience when it comes, anyone that's been on social media that's tried to make a business has had experience with dips, failures, gains, whatever it is. We've been all over the place. We've been through a lot, and that's what we're talking about.
So the one thing, just to kind of take a snapshot of where we are, we're about to hit the 1 million subscriber mark. And there's always channels that are bigger than you that you're always chasing. Like, oh, if we only had 2 million, whatever. But I've realized over the years, like in studying a lot of the YouTube channels, there are people who were doing it right for a while and who had bigger numbers than us. And all of a sudden we kind of breezed by them. And you look back and now a lot of those channels have kind of gone under.
It's funny, back in the day when I saw like a cooking channel with 1 million subscribers, I was like, oh my God, they've made it. Once you get there, it's like, but you realize, and one of the biggest things I've learned is that subscribers really don't mean that much, to be honest. We're about to hit 1 million subscribers and it's like, cool. It's like, it's really the journey. It's how you're connecting to these people during that path. We're here right now. We're no different than we were when we were, 15,000 subscribers and fucking crushing it.
Subscribers don't mean money. So 1 million subscribers does not mean $1 million. Not even remotely close.
But that's another video. We will get into that.
That's how YouTubers make money. That's a good video. Maybe next one we'll do how we make money. But one thing I wanted to talk about, and this is where I saw everything going down initially, is we were approached a while ago by some MCNs, and we've never signed with an MCN. If you don't know what they are, multi-channel networks, they're kind of like a network that has ownership over all these channels, and they give them support and they kind of give them boosts. But we always wanted to do it independent, and we're glad we did. And one thing we saw, we were approached by MCN a while ago, and Tastemade, and and all I'll say is that they said a lot of the right things, like, here's what we can help you with. This is years. This is many, many years ago. This is probably three or so years ago. And they were telling us about, they have all these statistics and this is what people want. At the time they were like, people want 3-minute videos. They want a thumbnail that looks the same. You got to have your brand logo.
You can't be eating at the end. You remember they were like, we've crunched the numbers, and it seems like people tune out when you start eating at the end of the video. We're like, oh, okay, that's where it ends.
and so I think for us, partly because like we just, I don't know if we're just rebels in the scene or whatever, we just did things different. We never really took to like things needing to be a certain way. And I remember at the time, that was the first time I put out a beginner's guide to cooking. And it was a 45-minute video, no cuts. Like a lot of things went wrong. Like the video cut out the last 10 minutes of the video. But it did really well. It's got, hundreds of thousands of hits now. And what I started to see was a lot of the channels that were doing that formatting, it worked for a while, but then all of a sudden they just lost steam. And like I remember specifically like Hyla's Cooking, she had this great show, a lot of personality, really creative. And then she started kind of getting into this format of thumbnails and styles of video and length. And it worked for a while. But then eventually it's like, it seemed like I'm just guessing, but it seemed like she lost her creative spark. And then just kind of the video started to tail off.
And this kind of gets into a bigger area of just approaching creative in a different way. So one of the hardest parts about YouTube is that it's a double-edged sword. And I've always kind of studied this. It's like on one end, you have ultimate freedom. You can do whatever you want. You are in full control. But guess what? On the other end of that is all of these people that are reliant on you, all of these critics and commenters that are coming in, and they've got instant feedback for what you're doing. So you would think like, okay, I'm just going to be free. I can do whatever I want, but it's not that easy. And every creator has fallen into this trap where they start doing something and it's really successful. And people like it for whatever reason. People get into this certain craft, if it's your personality, if it's whatever creative you have. But a lot of times you get locked into it because once you've created this thing and people like it, people don't like change. It's human nature to not really, change is scary. It's uncomfortable. So when you try to change, there's going to be a lot of uncomfortable people just because, we're used to this and now you're giving us this. So instantaneously, like you have ultimate freedom to do this, but then you've got all of this critiquing. And that is a really hard thing to deal with, something that we're really dealing with for the first time. Obviously, critiquing has been, in human nature forever, but the direct like commenters, that's not an easy thing to deal with. And that's something that you see a lot of YouTube channels failing with because they try to do something different. And maybe they give it one video, people don't like it, and they go right back to what they've been doing before instead of like just dealing with a little bit of that uncomfortable feeling, of that pain, getting through it and moving on.
I remember Nico's Kitchen. He was one of the first YouTube channels to hit 1 million subscribers. And if you haven't seen his channel, Australian guy who's doing a lot of fast food stuff and just different things. And I remember one time he tried this new video out, and this is a couple years ago, and he just got a ton, like a lot of dislikes, a lot of hate, and it was rough. And people were like, this sucks, go back to what you're doing. Like, I don't like this stuff. What happened to your channel? And I think sometimes when people see commenters, you assume that that's like this mass population of people. But the reality is, like, even if 30 people or 100 people comment on a video and have negativity towards it, maybe 100,000 people see that video. So it's a very small piece. And the type of people that comment tend to be very opinionated, right?
There's lots of people, loud ones.
Yeah, there are lots of people that just watch and they're just grateful to get a free video from you.
Like, how many times have you commented on a video, Josh?
Not many. Very, like, outside of our own videos of responding to commenters, I comment like almost never. And
unless I really like something, like it's
even though I like a lot of times I'm just like watching I'm more interested in the content and less interested in the comment section. Some people are obsessed with the comment section. But what I really saw was, and I remember I commented to Nico in this video, I was like, Nico, like, push through, it's going to be okay. Because I know that feeling. I've done a lot of really weird out there stuff on the channel. And there's sometimes the backlash is so bad, you're like, holy shit.
Oh.
And then next time you go to film a video, there's this sort of like fear of like, and that's what happens. You get this fear, like people didn't like it. And next time you go to do something, instead of coming from a place of like positivity and creation, you come from this place of fear, making sure that it pleases certain people. But then you're like, what do you even do?
I think one of the best analogies is if you look at all of the best bands in the world that have ever been really successful, that have made it past 2 albums, because a lot of times a band will have one incredible album, maybe 2, and they've been doing it a certain way. A good example is like a Mumford and Sons, where, they have this sound and people love it, but human beings, it basically, one of the fundamentals of life is growth. The universe is constantly changing and we have to change with it. So what happens is inside of you need to you're growing, you're changing, you're learning new things, and you want to be creative in different ways. But going back to the band thing, say like a Mumford and Sons, it's so hard to break away from that sound because so many people are so used to it and love it. But if you look at all the good bands, they are constantly changing every single album. Maybe they record an album every 2 years. A lot has changed, and they are pushing the limits, like a Radiohead. So many albums just sound completely different. They're reinventing themselves, and they're not scared. I mean, I'm sure they're scared, but they push through that fear, and that's why they can continue, because people get over that same sound. They want to grow too, but it's just hard in the beginning to get over that discomfort of something new. But all of those good bands, they're crushing it. They're changing.
I'm glad you used the band analogy, because when I first started my band in college, it was that way. We only had 5 followers when we started out, and we shifted our sound, and you lose 3, but you gain 10, and it's kind of that feeling. And I think sometimes when you look at YouTube, you look at YouTubers as like that is their only life. But Mike and I, for example, we've been inspired to do YouTube for the past 6 years, but now our lives are changing and we're excited about other stuff. And I saw a comment today, someone put this thing like, what the hell, this channel's turning into like healthy California, like vegetarian, whatever, and fermented bullshit. And it's like, I get where they're coming from. And I get like, if I was really into, a band and they changed and I didn't like their sound, like I could get like, I wish I liked their old album better. Sure. But you also got to like believe in the people that you started believing in, and know that maybe they're actually like, they're exploring their own world. Like in our case, like what we're passionate about is what we want to share with you. I'm not the kind of person that could do, like, I see like Guy Fieri, like he does this show for like 35 seasons of doing the same thing. And like, that's great that he can do that. But I know I'm not that kind of person, and Mike is not that kind of person. Like we need to be able to grow and do the things that feel inspired now. Otherwise you're going to be getting recycled bullshit from things we did in the past.
And we've fallen into that before. Like we built our channel on munchies, on simple college food, but we got to a point where there was really nothing to do left in that world. It's like we created that cuisine on YouTube, and we did it all. Like we did that final series on college cooking. We'll link that in the description. And that was kind of like the farewell to this. Like how much more, 4 ingredient creative things can we do? We're changing as people, so we're losing creativity for that. And we don't want to just keep recycling bullshit. If we're not inspired, you're not going to like that.
Mike, I've done videos where I'm like, oh, like I know this video will get a lot of hits because like people like it, so I'm going to go back. But then I do it and I watch myself. I'm like, who the hell is that asshole? Like, he's not inspired. He's not really putting in the time. He's just doing it for other people. And like, I do things for myself first that make me happy, and I hope that other people resonate with that. And that's kind of been the theme of all these changes we're going through. And if you're wondering about the channel, like I cannot possibly think of another recipe that we can do in a George Foreman grill. Aside from picking it up and like smacking someone in the head with it. Like I honestly cannot think of something, but we have those videos. So if you want to go back, or if you're someone that's new to this channel and you found one of those videos, like that is awesome. You can go back and you can watch those videos and get inspiration. But at some point, like life has to continue to grow. And I think I was watching Gary Vee, if you know who Gary Vee is. He's this intense sort of social media expert, and he's curses a lot, and he's very direct, and I appreciate his style. And he's like, you always have to be looking, how are you going to put yourself out of business? Because if you're not, somebody else is. Yeah. And that's like the way the world works. Like you look at someone like Apple, Macintosh, whatever, some of these big companies, and we think like they're just here to stay. Everyone's got a Mac or a PC, but in 10 years they could be wiped out. Something could happen, something can come along. So you always need to be thinking about, how is life changing? What are the trends? And like, what can you do to be inspired to continue to grow your life? And that's the place Mike and I are in. And it's not easy. It's not easy to change. Like Mike said, like people resist change. You're in a relationship with someone, they change, it freaks you out, but it's part of life.
And that's what we've seen with the YouTube channels that, aren't necessarily gaining subscribers anymore. It's because they're generally doing the same thing that's worked for a while. And eventually people get bored. It's like people don't want to change, but at the same time that comes with boredom, and you just get over something. You move on to the next creator that's doing something new if you're not doing something new. And like you said, it's interesting because some people do have that in them to kind of keep the consistency of their brand, to keep it up, and people like that. But what we've seen is that trend of people that are just scared to really go out there and change something that they've built for like 6 years, which actually brings me into my next point, which is, you know, another place that Josh and I are in, which is also some YouTube channels fail, and that's all right that they fail. My wife, you know, one day we're walking and I never thought about this. And she's like, YouTube is so weird because it doesn't end. You know, it's like if you think about any TV show, eventually that TV show ends, and the good ones, they end at the right time, like a Breaking Bad, you know, 5-6 seasons done. Bad ones like Office, which is an incredible show, but just kept going and just, you know, just recycling bullshit. That's like The Office is a great example of a lot of YouTube channels out there that are just recycling, when sometimes you do have to just end and fail. Like, you're in full control on YouTube. And because you are the owner, the CEO, the producer of your channel, you're making all the decisions. So it's a little strange, the world we're in, because there's no one telling you, like, you know what, maybe you should end it. It's like you have to figure that out on your own. And that's what we're going through as well. It's like, you know, time passes on concepts. And if you're not growing, you have to maybe just get out of it. So personally, Josh and I both have found other worlds outside of YouTube. I'm working on a new cooking show that I'm trying to find, a travel cooking show. I'm trying to find a home for that. But outside of YouTube, it's like I'm inspired by other platforms. Josh is working on a ton of other shit on his end.
Yeah, and we'll link below. Mike has a new Instagram account, Life by Mike G, right?
Yeah.
Life by Mike G. And I have one thing I can say is I started a kind of like radio station podcast on Anchor. So I'll link that below too. We're just talking about life and music and food and stuff. But I think, Mike, to your point, The Office. So the original Office, and this is a great point. Thanks for bringing this up. The original Office, Ricky Gervais did in Britain. And it was only like he only ever does shows for 3 seasons. That's like his cutoff. He's like, going to do a show. It's going to be great. 3 seasons done. I'm on to the next thing. But in America, it's like, we'll just go on to stuff forever. And I always love that, because a lot of the shows I've seen, like extras in The Office in the UK, you can see like he rocks it, he nails it, and then he's inspired by something new. And some people will drag things out. But I think in the case of like what Mike and I are doing is realizing that like we don't have the time to take these huge breaks and have a huge production team to like reevaluate new seasons, or where should we take this, or, you know, let's see what kind of the metrics. Like, we don't look at our metrics and our stats. We might look occasionally at like how many males and females are watching or from where, but we're not like that, like looking into minutes watched and stuff. Like, we're just doing videos that are inspired. And what's been cool about our channel is, even though it's probably one of the most diverse cooking channels ever in terms of like there's no basic format, and all the content's all over. Like, it's worked for us. And I've mentored a lot of other YouTube channels who are like, how do I do it? Like, I've been putting out videos. There's channels that have been around for as long as us, and they still have like 50,000 subscribers. And they're like, you know, how do I do it? And it's like, you've got to take those risks and those chances. There might be that video that you don't like. When I did How to Live on $3 a Day, I did not think it was going to go viral.
Josh put out a freaking video, like he said before, a 45-minute video just taping himself, which is like internet suicide at the time of, you know, everything's got to be quick, and especially in food, fast paced. And people loved it. It's like, how, you know, that's a risk. I'm just going to do what I'm inspired by, and that's important. And another thing you were talking about that I think is great is that idea of taking a break, which is like forbidden on YouTube, because we're in an age that algorithms kind of control everything. And right now, the YouTube algorithm, it pushes you for more content, daily content. It rewards daily content. So you have that whole vlogging world that erupted, where the content is shittier, but people still enjoy it, and it gets rewarded because it's every day. You're in the system, you're gaining subscribers. But what happens with that is you just keep doing the same stuff. You have no time as a human being. You have no space as a human to reevaluate, to shift, to change. And that is something we have gone through with Brothers Green many times. I remember the first time we took some time off when we were really in like a skyrocket. It's like your mind is exploding. You've been doing YouTube for 2 straight years, working the system, and you take a break and the whole world stops. You're like, holy shit, you're obviously, we were scared to take that break because you think you're going to just fall off the end of the earth. but it's all right. It's like you need that break. You need space to reevaluate your life. And that's so important as a social media creator to be all right. It's like a season of a show, like we were talking about. Take some time off, recreate yourself. We've gone through these dips, these highs, these lows, but we always come back. If we're really like putting in effort, we can take a break for a month, 2 months after a big high of subscribers, of views, and you build your way back up. But I think it's very healthy to take those breaks on social media.
Well, to your point about vloggers, like it's not to say that all vlogging is shitty. There's obviously a lot of great vloggers, and like a good point. What's the sailing show, Sailing La Vagabond.
Yeah.
They were like really grateful for the last video that we did, kind of addressing these things, and to me they're a really cool example of like doing good content that they're inspired by, and they're clearly going through their own shifts in their own world. But what I saw is when Casey Neistat came out, he made vlogging cool, and he was like, I remember seeing a video. He's like, I went from 500,000 to 5 million subscribers in a year. And it's because I did it every day. And so all of a sudden, all these vloggers are coming out. Like I can just film my life and have these clickbaity titles and these crazy looking pictures where someone's half naked on a beach and get lots of hits. And yes, that is going to work in the immediate, but that's the immediate gratification. To really build something, you need to be committed to it, and you need to be open to what it's going to be. Like when we started YouTube, I never thought about having a cooking show. And the next thing you know, MTV's approaching us and we're doing a show with them. And then next thing you know, we're getting these brand deals. So there's all these different angles. You can't just look at your one medium. You have to say, okay, this is what I have. What might come after that for me? And maybe for you, it's being inspired to do a new style of videos. Maybe it's working on a TV show. Maybe it's, creating a big podcast or whatever it is. Like, don't be afraid to try something new when you feel inspired. And if you don't feel inspired in the medium you're working in, YouTube, Instagram, anywhere, it's okay to step back for a little bit. People aren't going to forget about you. Maybe they're going to find new people. But what I always said is like, listen, I remember like when we took that first big break, I was reminded like, okay, maybe people will forget about Brothers Green for a few minutes and they'll start watching other content. But then when we come back, they remember why they loved us so much, and why maybe they don't like that other content, or they like it more and they're gone.
Too much of something is never good.
Too much of something can be wonderful. Yeah, I agree. And I think that like at the end of the day, when you're getting these dips, it's okay. That actually, like, some of the best things I feel like you can do is if you're doing really well and your channel is like known for something, and then you put out a video that gets a quarter of the amount of hits, like I think that's actually really cool because that shows that you took a risk versus just playing into what people want to see and seeing where that might open up for you in life. And remember, this is your whole life. This isn't just a moment of like some viral ejaculation. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Viral ejaculation. Well, I think we could end it on viral ejaculation. That's a video right there.
How to virally ejaculate.
Yeah, so that pretty much wraps this one up. It's all about change. It's all about kind of overcoming those fears. We've been on this platform for 5 years, and we are starting to make some big shifts in our life. Things are changing with us, so we have to change our content. And I think there's going to be a whole video. Maybe that's the next video about maybe the things we're working on or the shifts we're making.
I thought we figured out didn't we have something here? Oh, something about making money. That's another. It doesn't have to be the next one, but that's a good one.
Yeah. Hope you guys are enjoying this series. It's been fun for us. It's a good way. Josh and I live in different places now. He lives in Denver. I live in Brooklyn. And this is a really fun way that we can weekly, still have some communication, and you guys get to enjoy it as well.
And we do have maybe it comes out before we have another video coming out where we will be together. So, but in Chicago.
Together, all right.
Peace.
Peace.